Welcome, friends. So, as we've been discussing, it's individuation that attaches to thoughts that says, oh, something else should be happening. And there's this really graceful process of allowing those thoughts to fall away. And so I'm just going to give an example of how I use it. This is a process I call the three wells. And as I use it, it just seems to start exactly at that individuation place in a loving, holding way and gradually bring back a recognition of the benevolence of the moment. So here's an example, and then I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about exactly what I'm doing. So I got off work, and my husband doesn't work. He's retired. So he had, I think, three tasks that were his to do that day. He had to water some plants, go to the store, and pack up the car. Those are the things. Because after I got off work, we were traveling to a place few hours away. And so the plan was we were going to leave straight from me getting off of work. I got off work. He comes. He hasn't gone to the grocery store. Hasn't done the shopping. And it's very hot where we are. Where we're going is going to be very cool. And it's getting very close to rush hour. So his idea is that now we go to the store together. But all I can feel is I don't want to stay here where it's hot. I don't want to stay here where there's all this rush hour building. I want to get to the place where we're going. We'll just have to shop there. Now, where we were going didn't have everything that we wanted. So it was going to be a compromise in being able to get what we wanted. It's a much smaller town. But I said, no, let's just go. So I could feel inside of me the part that thought, okay, I've been working all day. How come he can't arrive to pick me up? Already gone to the grocery store. There wasn't that much he had to do, right? And and I could feel, in my case, from doing this over and over, I just felt like, yeah, I can fight, and what's the fight worth? It's just not worth it. But to show how the process works, I'm going to show what would be the steps I would take to deal with that situation. So the first thing is simply acknowledging that individuation process with compassion. It's so painful to wish for something that isn't here, to think that this reality is less than what it should have been. It's very painful. It actually is trying to separate from what we are. And as a result, it feels hopeless and powerless. So I just hold compassion for that experience here. And I acknowledge, okay, that individuating thinking was planning for it all to go this simple, smooth way, was planning to arrive into the car with the groceries already there, was planning to be able to drive where we were going and be able to settle in right away. It wasn't going to be like that. So just compassion. So often we want apologies. We want people to make up for what they've done. All of that is usually because we think somehow that proof is going to show that we were right, or we were good, or we did deserve better, or something like that. But we naturally are innocent. We naturally are right. We naturally have we can deserve more. I mean, it's so wonderful all we have. So, but it's that, that habit, that wanting habit. So the compassion is just holding that wanting. Oh, yeah, what a struggle that is, what a burden. course, yeah, there's that imagination that I deserved better, right? Just, oh, how painful to have that thought, how painful to make it mean something about me. Just, just compassion. And that just opens up and relaxes the system for me. It's just, okay, right. There's no more need for apology, more need for acknowledgement, no more need for comforting, no more need for somebody to make right what they didn't do. None of that. Because I've now given that to myself. In that compassion, there's just a loving knowing of the ultimate innocence. Then next is attention. Now, the attention can take days. The attention is sitting back away from all those assumptions, all those expectations, and just clearly looking. So looking, So we aren't going to get all the things that we want because I'm too impatient to sit around in the heat and the traffic. Interesting. There's a part of me that wants him to feel bad. So I say, let's go. And, that's interesting. I mean, this was an innocent mistake, but something punishing is arising in me. That's interesting. How much is our trip going to be hampered by not getting the stuff we originally wanted? Probably not much at all. What I've been attached to is this idea of how it should be, but is the reality going to be really any problem? Probably not. It's all going to be stuff we can deal with. Not really an issue here. It may cost more, so we have that money. So I just look and see, is it going to be more pleasant getting back into the cool and then shopping together there? Maybe that will be a fun thing, shopping together. Maybe at this other store we'll see something we wouldn't have thought of getting. Who knows? As it turned out, it was a fun experience shopping there. So what started to arise was this uncertainty that I really knew what should be. Like, wasn't I making a mountain out of a molehill? Yes, definitely. So the attention just brings this broader perspective from a place of, I don't really know. Maybe things are better than what I thought. Just a openness. That's what the attention brings. There's a setting aside for the moment all the expectations, all the rules, all the hierarchies. Just a openness to what will this experience be? And then wise action. So what was there to do? To enjoy the ride, to enjoy the shopping, to appreciate all the watering and car packing that my husband did while I was working. To appreciate that we got to be together. To appreciate that he's in my life. Such a loving angel he is. So what the wise action was to step into what is and start just tasting. Is there anything good here in what actually is? Rather than trying to stay back in some imaginary non-happening. Just the wise action was to taste and see real reality. So those are the 3 steps. First is compassion. The compassion doesn't ask anything to change. The complaint, the agony, whatever. It just breathes love, a knowing of innocence, a holding, an understanding. Of course, this is the reaction that would come up. Without feeding into it, going and asking for apologies and going and getting things made right. It's not about that. It's about just saying, okay, what we thought was going to be here is not. Let me just give you a moment for grieving, first, you could call it, just compassion, just the holding. And once there's just full tenderness and love, it's the grip can relax a little. You know, that grip on I wanted what I wanted. There's just compassion. Oh, you're not getting what you wanted, are you? I love you. And the grip relaxes. And then there's the openness of the attention. No hurry, just curiosity. Who is this person really to me? What matters most to me? What is the gift that is still here that I'm not taking the time to notice? And then finally, wise action. What is the next thing to be done here? Just a willingness to participate, to be the open receiver of what is. Just to taste. How is reality coming through? Just that curious willingness to take whatever the next step is and see how it turns out. So there's the well of compassion, the well of attention, the well of wise action. And going through that, suddenly there's no more complaint. And without complaint, there's no expectation. There's no holding on to any protection. There's just a merging into what is, and in noticing all the rest of that wasn't real. None of those beliefs, none of those expectations, none of those judgments of myself and others, none of it was real. It was all happening in la la land in thought. And when there's no thought determining reality, there's simply reality. When there's no thought trying to shape reality, trying to pattern reality, trying to conceptualize reality, there's just what is. No thought, no interpretation, no evaluation. And suddenly there's this open flow that's inevitable and benevolent, with no individuation, just the open flow. All possessing disappears. My car, my house, my relationship, my agreement, my children, all of those things are only in the world of thought. So possession, ownership, my goal, my destiny, it's just gone. Instead, there is what there is. And so it actually is extremely enlightening. Spiritual enlightenment is not, a box, a condition, a label, an arriving. Because there's no one to be enlightened. Or everything is enlightened. We just use that term for each moment that there's not an attempt to create an imaginary knowledge that separates itself out from what is. What is what is what is all there is. So it's all enlightened, it's all this. And when that habit is is part of it too, right? So that's why it's all enlightened. There's nothing, you can't escape it. But when that habit isn't happening, that relying on thought as a way of seeing the world is not happening, then that experience, that that end of individuating in the moment, we can call it spiritual enlightenment just because we like to call things something. And the calling is nothing. So you can try out that inquiry. Just find something in your life where you just felt like, I wish it would have been that way. Or I'm really hoping it's going to be that way. Or I'm suffering because it wasn't this way. I'm preparing to make sure it's not going to be that way. Whatever it is. Compassion, attention, action. Turns out we have an immense capacity for all of those when we aren't living in expectations. An immense capacity for compassion, an immense capacity for attention, and an immense capacity for wise action. That's why I call them a well, because deep within what we are, it's unlimited.